Thank you all for joining our special program today, uniting Hasidim of the Rebbe Shchuna, Kan Siva Hashem Sabracha, with Anash worldwide in honor of Gimmel Tammuz. To help us prepare for this special day, we are pleased and honored to hear from the world-renowned speaker and author, a member of the Rebbe's team of Chozrim, and founder and director of the Meaningful Life Center, Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who has graciously accepted to share words of wisdom and inspiration with us today. Thank you, Rabbi Jacobson.
V'lo yehoya keyemahu lefonov va'achrov. There was never a day like that in history, before or after. This is a verse in the book of Yehoshua, which refers to the first event that happened on Gimmel Tammuz almost 3,300 years ago, when Yeshua and the Jewish people entered into the Promised Land. In the middle of the battles, Yeshua turns to Hashem, to God, and says, Shemesh begiven doim. He declares and asks that the sun in Givon, over the city of Givon, should be silent, in order for him to be able to continue the battle and win. And on that, the Torah says there was never a day like that before that and after that. Is there a more apt way to describe the paradox of Gimmel Tammuz today? The event that took place on a dark Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, 26 years ago, when the Rebbe, the sun, the Chama, the Shemesh of our generation, it says, Pnei Moshe ki Pnei Chama. The face of Moshe is like the face of the sun. In every generation, we have a Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation. The Moshe of our generation, the Rebbe, 26 years ago, that sun set. Shemesh begiven doim. It was silenced. And now we are honoring that unique day. It's sad, but at the same time we're told that Nasi Yisrael, leaders in Israel, lo yaziv tzei marisam, they never forsake their flock. Ma lahalon hu emedim mishamish, afkanu emedim mishamis. Just as he once, in the past, stood upright and served, so too does he stand upright and serves now. So it's a paradox. Because on one hand, something happened on Gimmel Tammuz, something we all did not want, not desire, was not part of the plan. And yet, we're told that the Rebbe is with us. And in some ways even greater than before, as the Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKodesh, the section 27. And we see that the Rebbe's Chassidim and his Shluchim have only proliferated and grown and thrived in the last 26 years. So how are we to look in this strange day? On one hand, such concealment. On the other hand, it has led to such tremendous growth. So the story of Shemesh begiven doim really reveals for us the answer as well. The Alter Rebbe, in the Geras HaKodesh that I just mentioned, 27, at the end of the biur of the explanation, continues on and says that after the histalkus of a Rebbe, of a tzaddik, like the sun, he continues to shine. The sun sets only one part of earth, but it continues to shine elsewhere. So the sun is not changed in any way. Furthermore, the sun continues to shine and illuminate the glistening stars. As he mentions there, 600,000 kechovim, stars in heaven, that receive their light and reflect the light of the sun. Even when it's night. So besides the fact that the sun continues to shine, the stars as well. We are those stars, all the neshamas, the 600,000 neshamas klolis, the general central souls, which break further down, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya in chapter 37. We are the stars of the Rebbe. And it's in our hands to make sure that the sun is manifest and expresses itself by being the arms and legs, the mouthpiece, and do the Rebbe's bidding and fulfilling the Rebbe's shlichus in the fullest sense of the word. So how are we to understand Gimmel Tammuz? So the answer is we don't understand it. It's fine. There are things that are mysteries that we don't have to have an answer for. It's not fine in a good sense, but we don't have to have answers for everything. We can forge ahead, be totally committed, even if we don't have an answer. So Gimmel Tammuz is just that paradox, a day like never before and never will be. Because on one hand, a Rebbe is nitzchi, he's forever. And on the other hand, there is an element of concealment. Yet we're told that the concealment is only in order to bring a deeper revelation. In the language of Chassidus, tzimtzum b'shvil hagilui. The concealment is in order to bring a greater gilui. There's a mashal that Rabbi Hillel Paracha brings, that Rebbe explains when he addresses the 9 days, the 3 weeks and the 9 days, of a teacher who is educating and conveying brilliant knowledge to his favorite student. And then the teacher suddenly has an urge, due to his great love, that he wants to reveal to his student a far deeper and greater concept, an idea that he's never ever revealed before. But because it's such a radical paradigm shift idea, the teacher has to compose himself and prepare himself to teach. So he's silent, he's quiet, he falls silent. And what is he doing? He's concentrating. He's gathering his thoughts, he's digging deeper, he's finding the right words to express his deepest idea from the deepest love. Now the student sitting right near the teacher suddenly sees the teacher stop teaching. He doesn't hear a flow of consciousness, he doesn't hear ideas. So the student can be deceived into thinking that the teacher has forsaken him, has left him, when indeed the teacher is just waiting and pausing in order to reveal something greater. And with that he explains the silence and the sadness of the 3 weeks of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. It was in order to prepare to create a much better Beis HaMikdash, the third Beis HaMikdash that will be eternal. But in order to do so, the teacher has to gather himself, has to retreat in a certain way, concentrate, conceal. So the student thinks it's concealment. In truth, it's the preparation for a greater revelation. 2.5 years before Gimmel Tammuz, 26 years ago, in the year Tafshin Nun Beis, 28 years ago, the Rebbe had a stroke and literally affected his speech. He was silent after that. In a famous, classic, and very unnerving talk the Rebbe delivered 6 weeks before the stroke on Gimmel Shvat, Tafshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe said, speaking about his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe who had a stroke, compared it to Moshe Rabbeinu, who had difficulty speaking. Lo ish dvarim anechi. I'm not a man of words, Moshe said. Aral sfasayim, kvad peh v'kvad loshen. Difficulty speaking. And yet he was the man chosen by God to be the speaker to Paroi, and then later to the Jewish people. He was the one that conveyed the Torah. Moshe says to Hashem, why are you choosing me? I cannot speak. I'm not a man of words. So Hashem says, responds to God, to Moshe, Mi sam pelo odam, who has given a man a mouth to speak? Is it not I? I'm not looking for an orator. I'm not looking for a polished speaker, someone who has linguistics and mastered linguistics. I'm looking for someone who's going to be a channel for my words. I want you to convey what I want, and you're the man. And think of it. Moshe, the man, Lo ish dvarim, the man who said, I am not a man of words, his words have become more eternal, more analyzed, more studied, more evaluated and pored over than any other words in the whole of history. Eila advarim asher dibra Moshe is the name of the fifth sefer of Chumash. The words that Moshe spoke, The man of no words. You know why? Because it wasn't his words. He was a mouthpiece for God. Ad nais v'osai tiftach, we say every day in Shemoneh Esrei, before Shemoneh Esrei. God should open my mouth, my lips to speak. The kavanah is we should use our lips and our mouths to be the mouthpiece for the Rebbe, as the Rebbe says there at the end of the talk on Gimmel Shvat. He says, when a Rebbe has a stroke, those that heard him, that listened to him, that heard his words, have to be his mouthpiece. Chov Zayin Oder tragically would lead to Gimmel Tammuz. Now we do not hear the Rebbe's live words. At least our ears can't hear it. But that does not mean the mission has stopped, God forbid. On the contrary, the sun continues to shine through his stars. There's a very powerful manuscript from the Mittler Rebbe that we discovered a few years ago. I'll make it available to anyone. If you go to meaningfullife.com, you can find it in an article called The Silent Sun, where the Mittler Rebbe elaborates on this moshel of the Alter Rebbe. That the stars, there are times where the sun shines as it shines in midday, during the daylight, during the daytime. And then there's how the sun shines that night through the stars. And we are the stars, the Talmidim. We are the ones that carry the light of the sun to people. Why Gimmel Tammuz happened, we do not know. This day that never, lo yehaya kiyem hazeh, kiyem ahu, the fun of Achrov. We don't know why, but we know what we must do. We must be that mouthpiece. We must be that sunlight through the stars that we are. The glittering and the glistening stars that shine to everyone we can reach. That is our mission. And that mission is even stronger now. The only thing we can say is something that Rebbe said a number of times, specifically Tu B'Shvat Tov Shalom Etes, Hoshayne Rabbe Tov Shemem Daled, Asara B'Tevis Tov Shemem Daled. The Rebbe, with intense tears, through the tears, the sobbing tears, the Rebbe says, why do we need this continuing golus? Viful Zashir, how much Ad Moshe? And why? And then the Rebbe says, and literally you have to hear it through the loud crying of the Rebbe, that the only thing you can perhaps say is, because the Eibush Tervil, God wants, we shall mishashreimet an emes. We should cry out with an emes, with a sincere truth, and that can only be if there's complete concealment. If there was some revelation, some reason, we wouldn't really cry. It wouldn't be coming from us. Something has to come from us. And as the Rebbe said, Purim Tov Shemem Zayin, and Chof Ches Nissen Tov Shin Nun Aleph, 11 months to the day before the stroke, he said, I've done everything I can do. Now the only thing left I can do is give it to you. That should not be misunderstood, that the Rebbe is giving the mission to us, that is dropping the ball, God forbid, passing it on. He's giving us the kayach, he's giving the stars the power to communicate and convey the power of the sun. And for some reason, it needs to be something, as the Rebbe said, Purim Mem Zayin, from Hanossi went to Hakel, something we must do. Gimmel Tammuz, sadly, had we done what we had to do, we wouldn't perhaps have needed 27, for sure not have needed the Chov Zayin Oder, and would not have needed Gimmel Tammuz. But something was missing. Now, in a revealed way, the sun is set from our perspective. The sun is still shining. The stars are still here. But now, the stars emerge when the sun is not shining brightly. Midday, you don't see stars. To demonstrate that we now have to do something that Kavyochel, so to speak, something that only we can do. And the Rebbe told us, you have to do it. So the paradox of this day, not before, not after, a day that never was before and after, is carried and controlled by us. 93 years ago, there was another Gimmel Tammuz. Friedrich Rebbe was arrested on Tezvav of Sivan, 15th of Sivan, and they had already sentenced him to death. And then on Gimmel Tammuz, it was commuted to exile. So how did the Chassidim see it that year, 1927? Was that a good thing or not? Because on one hand, okay, there's no more death penalty. But on the other hand, it wasn't over. He's still exiled for 10 years and then for 3 years in Kastrama. And then it turned out that just 9 days later, Yud Beis Yud Gimmel Tammuz, the physical Rebbe was completely released. So the Rebbe refers to Gimmel Tammuz as Gaschalta de Geula. Because at the time, we didn't know which way it's going to go. But then the end result, in retrospect, you see it ultimately ended up being the Geula of Yud Beis Yud Gimmel Tammuz. Yet another Gimmel Tammuz in history. And what does that teach us? The story is not over. Then it took only 9 days. Now already 26 years. But the story is not over. The narrative is not over. That's why it's a day that we don't understand what it is. A day that never was and never will be. Because it's in our hands. Rachmana litzlan, God forbid, we can say, the sun is not here now. It's not shining. And give up. Resignation. Retreat. Or we take the lesson that Rebbe told us and said, I'm always here with you. You are my stars. You're the stars that are shining and reflecting my sunlight. Now it has to shine through you. Don't be deceived by the silence. The silence is only in order to create a greater revelation. Now you must do something. Tut als was ihr kennt. Do something on your part. Do something to convey through your effort and through your initiative, not my initiative. I did what I can. Something has to come from you, the star. An effort. And then we will see that Gimmel Tammuz turns into the beginning of a revelation of the redemption. But it's in our hands. It's in our hands. So it is indeed a paradoxical day. There's nothing wrong with crying and being sad by this concealment. But that's not where it ends. That's never what Chassidim do. We don't just cry. We recognize that, but then it motivates us. It's a catalyst, a springboard for much greater commitment, because what a simcha that this will lead to, that when we do our part, we'll have a revelation even greater than was there before. So what is the call of Gimmel Tammuz? Gimmel Tammuz is a day of accountability, of Cheshbon HaNefesh. What am you and what am I doing to be a star, a shining star of the Rebbe's son? What happened yesterday and the day before and last year and 25 years before, that's the past. We can't say, since we didn't do what we had to do then, or others didn't do, what can we do now? That's not the way we think. You always think ahead. Well, we have to make a hachlota today, Gimmel Tammuz. My humble suggestion is to sit down a few minutes quietly, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what am I going to do today? New, innovative. When you say new, we don't mean new mitzvahs, chaz v'shalom, new Torah. A new way of embracing the Rebbe's Torah, the Rebbe's directives, the Rebbe's vision. A new way to reach out to a person. We have so many methods today, so many tools, platforms. It can be a hachlota that you make, that today, Gimmel Tammuz, and every day forward, I'm going to reach out to 5 new people, to 50 new people, to 500 new people. Do something, new people, and people you haven't reached before. What are you going to reach out with them? You're going to share with them a nice, beautiful vort, thought from the Rebbe, a call to action from the Rebbe. You say, where am I supposed to come up with that? It's already existent. You don't have to create anything new. There's plenty of material out there. Go online, look at emails you receive, something that resonates with you. And share it like you'd share with someone you love. You share a thought. It's a beautiful thing to do. If you really can't find anything, go to my book, Torah Meaning for Life, full of beautiful quotes of the Rebbe. Or online. But it has to be anything that speaks to you. Share it with 50, I would say 500 new people. That's significant. And make a decision you're going to do that now on an ongoing basis. And ask everyone in your sphere of influence, your children, your family, friends, to do the same. Imagine all of us reach 500 new people. You can have a viral impact that has a ripple effect, a pula nimshachis, a perpetual impact on who knows how many people. but something new. When I say new, means with a new initiative, a new effort, a new quantity or new quality. The same message. We don't need to create new messages. No, we have everything we need. Chassidus, Torah, the Rebbe taught us through the lens of the Rebbe. That's a simple thing that every person can do. But it shouldn't just be achlota that for one day. It should be an ongoing effort. That's how we become the mouthpiece and the arms and legs of the Rebbe's teachings, the Rebbe's directives, action-based, the Rebbe's vision. A vision, the vision of Torah, the vision of Geula. The world that will be filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. A world where there'll no longer be the beginning of that verse, no more evil, no more destruction. In the words of the Rambam, that the business of the world will be nothing but to know God, divine spiritual consciousness. No famine, no war, no exploitation, no corruption. So the next thing is to envision. You cannot pursue something unless you envision it. If something remains a mystery and you can't have any clue what it's like, very difficult to aspire to it, very difficult to yearn for it. Why do we learn Shleishim Yom Kedem Achag? 30 days before Pesach, we learn Hilchos Pesach. 30 days before every Yontif, the way Moshe Rabbeinu established. Because to do something, you have to know what to do. You have to read the instruction manual first before you use the appliance, the havdil. Same thing, before you get to a holiday, you have to know what the holiday is about. You can't wait till the day. To use an example, if you're preparing for a big meeting, for a potential investor, or to be hired, you're going to prepare. You're not going to just walk in and wing it. You prepare because it's an important thing. Mashiach and Geula is a state of being of the entire world, of every one of us. Says the Rebbe, Lil Midinyan Geula Mashiach. What does that mean? It's not just a Geula, learn. We learn. By learning, you get to know what the Chefetz is. What are we talking about? And when you get to know what you're talking about, you say, hey, that's something I want in my life. So the next suggestion is on Gimmel Tammuz today, and again, let it continue through afterwards. Envision, take a few minutes to envision, what will my life, my home, my office, if you're going back to the office, the street outside of my house, my community, what will it look like if Mashiach comes right now? Encourage your children to do the same. Incentivize them. Discuss it. And not just magical mumbo-jumbo. In real terms, what will the world look like? Says the Rebbe, quoting the Medrash, Geula is Geula with an aleph. You don't need to have miraculous events and things that are completely earth-shattering. It's the same world, except there'll be the aleph. Geula is a state of Golus, where you don't see the aleph of Alufa Shalelam, the creator, the Echad, Hashem Echad, the aleph of God's unity. And Geula is the same world, but you see how it's an expression and a reflection of what God wants. When you turn your home into a bayis Torah Aved Gemilas Chasadim, says the Rebbe, that you have a pushka, and you have a siddur, and you have a chumash, and you have other svarim, and your child does the same in their bedroom, and everyone does it in their room. You've turned your home into somewhat of a Mashiach Dika home, a Geula Dika home. Is it perfect? That's what we work on. Envisioning, in turn, leads to action, to living by that, as best to our ability. So Gimmel Tammuz is a day of accountability where you're standing before the Rebbe, the Son, and says, I don't see you, but you see me. You've told me that I can do everything I can. I'm bringing to you, the Rebbe. Here's what I am decided to do. Here's what I'm doing. We should be able to stand proud and not say, I don't know what to do, find excuses. No, Gimmel Tammuz is a day of motivation. On one hand, yes, the sun is silent, but on the other hand, it's a silence that's meant to lead to the loudest voice possible, the voice that shines now through the stars, even when it's night. And that's the mission that each of us is charged with. 26 years, it's a long time. But we can't think of it that way. Oh, 26 years, nothing happened, nothing's going to happen. No. It's completely in our hands. The Rebbe's words, tut als was kent. He's a directive, but also in a sinus keach, is giving us strength. And he says there at the end of the talk in Chav Ches Nissen, there should be 1, 2, or 3 of you that will come together, put your heads together, and discuss what to do and how to do. We have our marching orders. Yes, the sun has set, it's concealed, but it's still shining in full brightness, and it's shining through us, the stars. How will your star shine? Today, Gimmel Tammuz, tomorrow, and the days ahead. May we be zeicha to use this, again, strange, mysterious day as a driving force, a motivating force, to actually turn into a day that never was and never will be, because it will bring us to the Geula Amitis V'Ashlema. That never was and it will be in the future. But it's a day that's unprecedented. Geula Amitis V'Ashlema. And that God, with the Rebbe interceding on our behalf, should see and have Rachmanis, but see our positive energy, our marching forward, Vayuso, move forward, not getting stuck in the arguments and discussions, but action. And we should be zeicha to be reunited with the Rebbe, the sun shining on this part of the planet as well, not just in other parts. And together with the stars that we have, that will see a unity that will be all pervasive, and v'hu yigalenu, with the Rebbe Barcheinu Geula Amitis V'Ashlema, and that should happen immediately now.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacobson, for your inspiring words. May we merit still today to be reunited with the Rebbe and once again hear Torah Chadosha with the Geula Shlema now. We will now join the global Hiskashrus event by the Vad Or V'Chom. To have your name added to the Pan Kloli, please log in to www.barcheinuavinu.com and click on the Pan button. To help contribute to the cost of today's event, please go to www.charity.com/Barcheinu, BARCHEINU /CH Shuls. Thank you so much.